This is the CBC Morning Report for Wednesday, July 5th. I'm Tisha Hines. Good morning. The community crime intervention programs launched through the Attorney General's office have been bearing fruit. Just under a third of the proposed 150 measures have been implemented, and Minister of State in the AG's office, Corey Lane, joins us live to give a midway report as the program has been active just over 6 months. Good morning to you, Mr. Lane. Let's try to get that audio sorted out. I believe we're having a few technical difficulties there with Mr. Lane. So let me know as soon as we're able to get his audio sorted out so that we can go back to Mr. Lane. In the interim, CARICOM leaders have been participating in activities to mark their 50th anniversary milestone. An official flag raising was among events held yesterday.
Heavy rains as a result of isolated thunderstorms failed to put a damper on the excitement as Caribbean community CARICOM leaders Tuesday planted 6 poi trees as part of the celebrations marking the 50th anniversary of the regional integration movement. The leaders of the 15-member regional grouping also signed a letter and placed it in a time capsule to be unsealed 50 years from now. They also took part in the ceremonial flag-raising ceremony at the Convention Center in Chaguaramas, where a CARICOM came into effect on July 4, 1973. Dominica's Prime Minister and CARICOM's Chairman, Roosevelt Skerritt, says he believes CARICOM nationals are living in a more difficult world than 50 or even 20 years ago.
There are too many injustices that have been meted out to us as a CARICOM and a Caribbean community. The issue of climate change and the kicking down the bucket of firm decisions to address our concerns in the Caribbean community. And sometimes we feel like giving up. We feel like not going to any of the COP conferences. But we must never relent on our fight against an injustice, like our forebears who fought for our emancipation.
He also spoke to the issue of corresponding banking and the risking and the implications for each CARICOM resident.
I do not believe that the average Caribbean national understands the implications of this on their own individual household and circumstance. I want to say to us in the Caribbean community, this is not a government fight. This must be our fight in the Caribbean community. Every one of us must play a part.
Meanwhile, host Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley told the ceremony that Chaguaramas will always be remembered as the venue where an event took place that changed the course of the region's history.
Today we stand in these showers on what we consider to be Caribbean holy ground. Chaguaramas holds a special place in our hearts because of its role in the creation of the Caribbean community. Had we been present 50 years ago on these very grounds, we would have been privy to events that changed the course of our region's history. Undoubtedly, the air was filled then, as it is now, with expectation, joy and hope for the future.
Rowley suggested that the founding fathers of CARICOM would have looked on with satisfaction at how the movement had progressed over the last 5 decades. He said a common theme among the outlook of the founding fathers was expanding CARICOM beyond the Anglophone Caribbean.
Well, as we started, we were telling you that the community crime intervention programs launched through the Attorney General's office have been bearing fruit, and we've invited Minister of State in the AG's office, Corey Lane, to join us to give us an update, a midway report. We're hoping that we can hear you loud and clear now. Good morning, Minister Lane.
Hi, good morning, Tisha, and good morning, Barbados. Hope you're hearing me clear this time.
Yes, we are. All right, how much headway have we made in getting these peace initiatives off the ground?
Right, in terms of the crime program, I can come back to the peace initiative, which is part of the crime prevention program. I'm able to report to Barbados, as we talked last time, April 17th, on People's Business, that we had 150 initiatives, activities, so on, that we wanted to work on that will bring us to a safer place. I'm happy to report now that I'm seeing here we've started or completed 52, and we have about 98 more to go. I want to give Barbadians, every time I get this opportunity, understanding of the breakdown. I know we don't have a lot of time, so we're going to make it really quickly. In terms of the campaign initiatives, out of the 14, we've began or finished 3. In terms of partnership, 14 of the 17 have started. In terms of the programs, 2 of 14 have started, 5 of 25 projects. All 6 special interventions are completed, and 2 of the 5 major tasks have been completed. What has also been done is 30 of the 69 lobbying initiatives have taken fruit. And what does that mean? There are 30 items within the 150 things that we've been lobbying for, that we've seen or partnered with persons to get them done. An example is the legislation for parent accountability. One of the things we've been able to do in reviewing is see within the child justice and child protection legislation, those elements have been placed in there. And the list goes on. So 22 actions have been taken towards making Barbados safer, and 30 lobbying actions have taken root so far.
All right, so let's go back to the original question then of the headway that you've been making in the area of the peace initiatives that are part of the overall programs.
Yes, so I am glad to have the opportunity really to distinguish for people between crime and the peace. So for instance, the peace initiative was really about 2 warring factors that were having a lot of, fractions that were having a lot of retaliations between each other, causing ultimately homicide and disruption of the society. That is still holding. We've seen, even although there have been isolated cases here and there, that they are not connected to the previous war. So I want to say to Barbadians that from our observation, because we monitor it, we've seen that it is still holding. So Barbadians can feel happy and proud and safe that is holding together, Tisha.
Is there any type of monitoring mechanism that's being used to ensure that what you're hoping for is continuing along that path?
Excellent question. So in relation to that particular initiative, there's an NGO, non-government organization that works along with them. They have something called the High Council, where they go and, there's proper monitoring done there. For the overall program, I will admit and confess to Barbados that I am not satisfied with the level of monitoring evaluation. From the outset, it was one of my number 1 priorities, because within Barbados and across the region, I think that we have a dearth of research, information, monitoring to be able to speak factual to exactly what is happening. I am not satisfied with where we are with our monitoring evaluation. Even putting together the report for this, it should have been a lot easier. So I believe that is another area that we have to do some working. The other area I'm not satisfied in, obviously, also is the media. What may jump a lot of people is I like to do things in background action, get things done. And doing that, I've not been able to share with Barbadians in a practical way beyond the talk, that they can see the videos of our community projects, the young people we're working with, the high-risk persons we're working with, the vulnerable groups all the different things that we're doing. It's very hard to do that in a talk environment, because people say it's a talk shop, you're just talking. But I think that what we have to do now is to package the visuals of a lot of what we're doing, so Barbadians can get an understanding of what is happening out there.
All right, so do the programs have all the manpower resources needed to effectively work? Because that's a major part of success.
Yes and no. I would like to build a full-time team of persons who can be dedicated to doing the work. But yes, because what we've done is we've engaged with persons who've been doing the work out there on a voluntary basis. We've engaged with many NGOs and CSOs, community service organizations, and so on, to kind of almost build an army in this fight. So the project unit is really like SEAL Team 6, I call them. They're very strategic and surgical in their movements. But we've partnered with the Tyrese Caesar Foundation, from Gospel Fest, so many organizations, men's, the professional social workers, et cetera, to blanket the society with action because we can't do it alone. So when it comes to manpower and partnering, yes, we have a platoon, we have an army, but in terms of the fully dedicated staff to help with coordination and monitoring and so on, that continues to need to be built out.
And even though there's been concentration on particular area, you made specific reference to warring factions. What about all the other things that are happening on the fringes? How are those things being dealt with?
Right, as we continue to aim for perfection, and to ensure that there is zero crime in Barbados and Barbados become the first crime-free nation. Some people say yes, it's impossible, but we still aim for it. Whenever we identify trends, those are things that we are able to put measures in place for. Another advantage of the High Council is they told us 3 weeks ago that this is what we will be seeing. So then we work with our partners in law enforcement to pass on that information so that they can strategize. Now, while that is not within my remit, we are able to offer our support and advice. So those are things that we take into consideration. Another thing I want to say is that we don't go and do any one thing. There's a collection of things done. So for instance, we've been looking at where some of the issues may be. So it may be DJs, and we've been talking to the DJs. We may see things coming out of prison or, caused by persons in prison. So we go to the prison and we work there. And we see things within different communities, and we call those communities together. And so there are lots and lots of things. We look holistically at what can be the root causes, what it causes things to happen, those specific things. Look at the problem, get action on the solution.
Well, I know that a lot of Barbadians are still a little concerned about the level of gun crime happening across the island. Do you share the sentiments of the vocal people who are talking about what's happening in terms of the proliferation, seemingly, of guns across Barbados?
Tisha, I want to extra thank you for that question, because I believe that it gives me an opportunity to put things in better perspective. One of the things sitting in this chair and sitting in this position I'm happy to have done is that I've looked back and I recognize that past administrations, and not only in politics and government, but even in the church and service clubs and so on, one of the things I recognize is that they've been very bad at taking criticism and listening. They always think that whatever criticism comes is because of opposition forces. And so they dismiss all things. On the other hand, if you listen to all things, you will go crazy as well. I think that I've created a good balance. In all things, let there be moderation. I listen and I try to discern who are the detractors, who are the opposition forces. And then I also listen and see who providing constructive criticism. I believe a lot of Barbadians are happy with what they're seeing. They used to see 3 murders a week, 3 murders in a weekend, and they recognize that there's a significant improvement and we have some more work to do. The low minority, the 3 persons or the 10 persons, you have to now look and see where they're coming from. And I know that they know that the work is being done as well. So that's why I say they believe that we got to celebrate the well-wishers. So many people reach out and say, I see a difference, you're doing a good job, keep it up, and I pass it on to the team. Because if the team only listens to the distractors and the criticism, they will be daunted and they will not be able to work. One thing I took for granted is that I thought that our love for Barbados was root for Barbados, and that people will not just try to purposely just pull down, because that's what they have to do. Oppositions have to pull down. The people have to find things to talk about. So I thought, me and my old love for Barbados, everybody shares this, and they will just have constructive criticism, and people will not just pull down for pull down sake. I was naive, I was wrong, and I will work on that. But at the end of the day, Tisha, I am saying that I am very happy with the work that we have going on. We have field agents, change agents out in the field, and they're working with communities that haven't seen that intense work being done with them. And that is the proudest part of the work. Well, we had our 22 actions within the project unit. Working with all the organizations already doing good work and supporting them has been important. And having those field agents go and work with a lot of young people who are isolated and feel cast aside, I feel that that is where the real work will take root. And if you start at the root, you start young, understand that you won't see all the results next week. So if somebody is 11, 7, we're working with them. You see somebody at Powder at 30 doing something, understand that that work that we've done over the last 7 months, it wouldn't taken root as yet.
All right, well, I want to thank you for coming in and sharing with us this morning. Corey Lane, Minister of State in the Attorney General's office. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tisha. Thank you. Have a good day.
And you. Now, Monday was the hottest day ever recorded globally, according to data from the U.S. National Centers for Environmental Prediction. The average global temperature reached 17.01 degrees Celsius, surpassing the August 2016 record of 16.92 degrees Celsius, as heat waves sizzled across the world.
El Nino is a global weather pattern that follows its sister event, La Nina, on average every 2 to 7 years. It starts when trade winds that blow east to west just north and south of the equator change direction and begin to weaken. The Pacific Ocean heats up along the equator and blows warm air towards Central America. That brings severe weather to the entire world, increased rainfall and floods in some areas, drought in others. By declaring the start of an El Nino year, the United Nations hopes governments will prepare.
Information we are providing as, if you like, a global scale perspective. So detailed implication of El Nino remain at the core or in the hand of the member country, which need to refine the information. So we're providing the global picture, and every region will have the detailed picture of the implication.
And that's where it gets complicated, because the local effects can be different and severe. While droughts strike Central and Southern Africa, India, Indonesia, Australia, and northern Brazil, rain pours over the southern U.S., parts of South America, the Horn of Africa, and Central Asia. Storms in the Atlantic weaken, while those in the Pacific strengthen. This weather fluctuation often leads to a rise in commodity prices on wheat from Australia, palm oil, coffee, and even nickel from Indonesia, copper from Peru, and fuel more in demand as hydropower dries up. Analysts say governments will need to come up with a plan to tackle each of these challenges.
In our research, we do show that the effects of El Nino work themselves out within 4 to 6 quarters. So the economic impacts of El Nino will only last for about a year or a year and a half, in some countries up to 2 years.
But a study from Dartmouth University in the U.S. showed that after the last 3 El Niños, the world's economy lost trillions of dollars.
The other reason we're getting larger costs, I think, than previous estimates is because we are allowing for the possibility that El Nino influences more than just tropical countries. And when you do that, you actually find that there are really no places in the world that actually benefit from El Nino events. And so you just get this much larger fingerprint in terms of global macroeconomic effects.
All of this on a planet that is hotter than ever before in modern history.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more news. The Barbados Workers Union says it's pleased with the progress made by management of Kentucky Fried Chicken at Oyston's in striving to make working conditions there more accommodating for its staff. This from Communications and Information Manager Shane Jones. This comes after a union delegation paid a follow-up visit yesterday to the establishment following the recent closure due to excess heat and other health-related issues. Mr. Jones says the union is satisfied its prerequisite for reopening, which centered around heat reduction, was being met by KFC management. The union official says they will continue to closely monitor the situation.
We are happy to report that based on what we saw and felt, as well as in speaking with a number of the employees there, the branch was significantly cooler, and we are satisfied with conditions at this stage. So we at the Barbados Workers Union will continue to monitor the situation and liaise with our membership there to see if anything changes. And of course, the Barbados Workers Union thanks the management of KFC for following through with their commitment.
Amidst several reports of rat infestation in many urban spaces and even more reports of piles of garbage shooed across Jamaica, the National Solid Waste Management Authority there is encouraging Jamaicans to employ the practice of composting. Jamaicans have been told 67% of garbage generated is compostable. CVM Television reports.
Unsightly piles of garbage, accompanied by pervasive odors, have long been a persistent problem in Jamaica, tarnishing its natural beauty and impacting the environment in myriad ways. However, Audley Gordon, Executive Director at the National Solid Waste Management Authority, believes a simple yet powerful solution lies in the hands of the people: composting. He revealed a staggering 67% of the garbage deposited at waste sites across the country is compostable.
Can you imagine if we were doing composting on a broad scale in Jamaica? What would happen? We would need less trucks. We would need less acreage for disposal site. The environment will be better off for it, and we would have enough fertilizer that would give us better yield than we are currently getting. Look at composting is good, make no mistake about it.
In a bid to introduce this option as a viable and practical one, the agency has published a citizen's guide. The 20-page booklet also features information on proper containerization, storage, and waste management.
We are not making excuses. We must go for the garbage. We must go for the garbage. But until we reach, the garbage must be properly containerized, and we must ensure that we know what to put out and what not to put out. We must also know what we can do at source with some of the garbage, because a lot of what we put on a truck didn't have to go on a truck. We could use it at source, and it could become a source of fertilizer for our flower garden, our vegetable garden. We could even do community projects where we do composting for sale.
Adamant Jamaica's beauty is the nation's collective duty, Gordon urges everyone to play their part and insists the government and relevant authorities will employ vigorous sustainable education campaigns to aid Jamaicans in acknowledging the errors in their ways and change them.
Let's preview now what's coming up at 6:30 on Morning Barbados. Today is another presentation of the next chapter. We're going to feature a very interesting book for you, plus the new segment, The Eyes Have It. We want you to tune in and see if you can figure out who we are presenting to you based only on a look at their eyes for a chance at a big prize. Plus, we are looking at post-menopause as we talk and go into women's health today. We're also talking HR with the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados, and we get to meet a few young men in the Mr. Executive Interschool Business and Gentleman's Challenge. That's all coming up at 6:30 on Morning Barbados. But next, more news, sports, and weather. Stay with us. Guyana is undergoing major transformation to build a world-class service sector. The update came during an engagement with the Guyanese diaspora in Canada by President Dr. Irfan Ali. We hear more from this DPI Guyana report.
President Ali said this move ties into government's intention of building and marketing Guyana as its unique brand. He underscored that a world-class service sector will require the modernization of Guyana's records management system, using biometrics and electronic identification cards and passports, among other e-management systems.
We have to now utilize the technology that is available to move us quickly up the chain, as expensive as it is. We have to transfer everything that we have learned to do all our lives onto the electronic platform.
To that end, Guyana has implemented the single window construction permitting system, and other single window system to remove human bias, reduce bureaucracy, and increase transparency for greater efficiency.
And in sports, after winning the Women's One-Day International Series against Ireland, the Windies have won the opening T20 international match. Last night at the Darren Sammy National Cricket Stadium in Grosillay, St. Lucia, the Windies women sent Ireland women into bat and restricted them to 112 for 7. Skipper Hayley Matthews took 3 for 22. In reply, Windies women got to the target off the very last delivery, scoring 113 for 8. Player of the match, Matthews, top scored with 37. And in more cricket, Barbados got off to a good start by beating Trinidad and Tobago by 37 runs in the opening match of the 2023 CWI Rising Stars Men's Under-19 Championship in St. Vincent last evening. The Bajans were sent in to bat first and posted 152 all-out in a match reduced from 50 overs to 39 overs. The overs reduction was due to late start after rain in the morning. Captain Nathan Seeley led with 35, assisted with an unbeaten 24 from Isaiah Folks and 24 also from Joshua Dorn. TNT in reply were bowled out for 115 of 34 overs thanks to a hat-trick from Renico Smith and ended with 4 for 24. Dre Springer picked up 3 for 36 and Seeley had 1 for 8. The Barbados Under-19 men's side will not take on Windward tomorrow. Meantime, the Bajan Under-19 women were also due to play their opener against hosts TNT women, but the match was washed out. Let's take a look now at your weather for today. The barometric pressure stands at 1015.6 millibars. It's 27 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity is 78%, and the winds are blowing out of the east at 34 kilometers per hour. Present weather fair with slight haze. Sea conditions for today. Moderate in open water with swells ranging from 1.5 to 2 meters. And here's a look at how the tides will roll in. The forecast for Barbados for today, partly sunny with a few brief isolated light showers. As we move into the evening, pretty much the same, a mix of clear skies and clouds with a so good to have you